All right. So Studio One has so many options. It's just too many options. And so I'm going to show you the easy way to add watermark. So first off, what's a watermark? So remember in the old days where you had paper, and in paper, if you held it up to the light, very often it had a little thing like they had put a drop of water, but they put a logo on it. And it was so subtle that sometimes people wouldn't notice it when they're writing on a piece of paper. And in audio, sometimes we want to deliver something to a client that has a little beep in the background. And I think there's some service that says, audio jungle. And what happens is you can get music samples off of this service, and every 15 seconds or so, there's a subtle thing in the background that says, Red Barnes Audio or BO Jumpstart. And you'd have that in the background, and obviously you'd use your own name, but you could put your name in the background and have it subtle. Now there's some other ways you can do it as well. So I'm going to show you just something as simple as I went on my service, which is Storyblocks, and I ended up getting a little beep sound. And what would happen is I would send this to the client and say, hey, do you like this? It has a little beep in it. Once you approve it and we get payment, then we'll send you the version without. Now, by the way, I prefer working with clients that I don't need to do this with because it's extra hassle. I need to create a separate copy. I'd rather send them something that's more exciting than the watermark one. It is also a sign that I don't trust them. But hey, that is the reality sometimes, and you do need to do that. So let's talk about the first one. The first simplest one is you get a beep, or you create one of your own watermarks and you put it on. But here's what would happen. So first I have this little voice track here. It's this yellow track that's sitting up here. And let me make sure comments. Oh, I don't have any comments. Oh, I do have some comments on the YouTube. All right. Yeah. Dale, Big Apple. Yes. New York. Dave. Great. Happy to see you there. Thank you. I don't recommend watermarks. Yeah, I don't either. I kind of consider it a sign that I don't trust somebody. I prefer to be working with people, but I still get this question every once in a while. So I do agree with you. Most of the time, I'm not going to be using watermarks. I'm going to work with people that I trust. But it is a reality that occasionally you need them, and it's easy to do. So I'll show people, it does come up. So that's why I'm showing it. But I do agree with you. Most of the time, I don't do this. All right. But if I did need to, first thing, here's a little voiceover that I did, and I'll play that.
At all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't.
Okay, so let me know that you did hear that. So I know that the playback is also showing Studio One. Let me look at my meters here while it's doing
times. That. It knows this because it.
Yeah, you should have been hearing that. And then I have a beep. Let me listen to the beep here. Okay, little beep sound. And you have to decide how subtle you want this to be. So I combine these two I throw it on another track. I got it from my service. I dragged it on in, put it where I want it. I might put it after 15 seconds, but I'm not going to play anything other than it's going to be both combined.
Or knows where it is at all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't.
Now, what I would be doing is I would do it with a keyboard shortcut. I would be copying that and maybe placing that every, 15, 30 seconds. I don't do this often enough to have I absolutely do it this much. And I'm going to do it from a right click to paste it, although I have to admit, I do it with keyboard shortcuts all the time. But I just want to show you, I'm doing a copy paste. Normally you'd do Control or Command C for copy and then paste. And now I have a second one. Now, by the way, then I would select both of these, and then I might go ahead and duplicate it. And then I'll drag it over to where I want it. Now I get a couple of them. And I just place it at random intervals so that every so often, as the voiceover
the position that it is in is not the position. However, the car must also know where it was.
And if all those were too loud, I'd select all of them. You notice I just selected across all of them, and I brought it down, and now it's going to be a lot more
where
subtle.
It is at all times. It knows.
Yeah, too much. I might have it down here. Let's see if that's enough.
Or knows where it is at all times. It knows that.
Okay, so it could be something just as subtle as that, and you'd pick how much. How much makes sense, and I might.
It is at all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't at all times.
So trick. Anytime I want to play something over and over again, I don't usually put a loop on anymore. I mean, I can, and there are times if I'm working music, I may put a loop on it. But a lot of times what I'm doing is going up to the timeline here and double-clicking, which starts playbacks. I could go any place here. I'll just take this one here. I have all these selected, by the way, so as I'm adjusting one, I'm adjusting all of them at the same time. So let's take this one right here. A double click is going to start from where I'm at. Also, I could go right down here in the blank spot, and a double click is going to start playback. And then a single click will bring it back. Once it's in playback mode, it's playing, a single click will bring it back and restart it again. So I could double click.
That the position that it is in is not the position that it wasn't.
And then it also, because I double, let me see, I got to check this here, by the way. I was thinking, I'm going to learn something here, just like everyone else, all right? Here's this funny thing. I've done these things thousands of times. And now I have a question about something. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm going to figure it out in real time in front of you. If I go up here and change the thing, it doesn't change my selection. I think when I go down here, it unselects all these. So note, I selected across all 4 of these events, these beeps. And now you can see the little drag handles. If I zoom in, I have a little drag handle. I can take this top line and I can adjust the volume. If I go right down here and double click, make sure you can see those. Okay, they're all right there. Double click.
The event that
it actually turns off the selection. I did not know that because I normally do it from the timeline here. And I thought I was going, I'll show you another way of doing it. Yes, you can do that. Watch this though. I'm selecting across all of them. They're all selected. It's just in case. And then I'm going to go up here to the timeline, double click.
the position that it is in is not the position that it wasn't. The system has in the
Single
event
click.
that the position that it is in is the position that it is in is not the position that it wasn't. The event that the position that it is in is
okay. So now I'm going to get to adjust those to the level I want. And I didn't know that. If you go down here and double click, it actually blows away this selection. I have all these selected. If I go in the timeline and I double click and then single click, if you haven't tried that, go into the timeline, double click, or press the space bar so it's playing. And then move your mouse to some other spot and do a single click. You'll see it'll jump to wherever you are. Forward, backwards, doesn't matter. Great thing for playing things over and over again. If I want, I don't really loop most of the time with the looping. What I do is double click and leave my mouse where it is and single click in order to come back as many times as I want. When I'm done, I press spacebar. Why do I press spacebar? I could double click again and turn it on. I just press spacebar out of habit because for years I've pressed spacebar and spacebar again to start and stop. So now to do this, double click, single click for a while and then press spacebar. Yeah, I could do it either way. There's more than one way to do it. But by keeping, if you have multiple selected here, then I can adjust all of them at once. Now, by the way, if I only had one, then I wouldn't need to do that. So that will allow me to adjust it to where I think it's loud enough to bother the client with a watermark. And let's see if this is about right.
in the event that the position that it is in is not.
It may be just enough to annoy them, okay? And that's all we kind of want to do. But it does annoy them. Just be aware, you are annoying somebody when they hear this little beep in there. If you prep them for it, you have to, now we're getting into a whole different thing, nothing to do with Studio One. You have to then do client management and say, hey, by the way, since it's the first time we work together, then I'm throwing a little watermark in there. After we've worked with somebody a couple times, we don't throw in the watermarks because we know each other and that kind of thing. You are going to annoy somebody when you do this. You are basically saying, I don't trust you. Okay? That's how I'd interpret that. You send me a watermarked file. But it is reality. So if you prep them nicely and say, hey, I don't do this with my repeat clients, but hey, on the first time I work with somebody, or if it's a really expensive thing, but you have other options, okay? So that's the first one. Second thing you could do, of course, you could go ahead and I have this track armed here, and I could say whatever I want, all right? So I'll be Mr. Obnoxious because I'm good at that. I have this one set up to record. I'm going to turn this off. VOJumpstart.com. All right, so that's obnoxious. And then I'm going to now do this and listen to this.
Car has obtained. It is not sure just where it is.
.com.
However,
okay, now, I even have the end there. I'm going to drag this back, get that in. We'll put this here. And if it were me, if I were doing this for real and I wanted to be professional about it, then I would probably do something like this. I'm going to show you a shortcut. I can right click, say event effects, and add an effect, and then go ahead and add my room reverb. And then that way I would throw that on there, and I probably would use some medium studio. That would be about right, is my guess. And now, let me isolate that for you. I'm going to have VOJumpstart.com. Okay, that's pretty obnoxious. but it's subtle obnoxious. and then
of the information the car has obtained.
VO
It is not sure just.
I would put some reverb on because I just think it sounds a whole lot better like that. But do you have to? No. And then of course I would duplicate that one just like I did the beep, and I would take this. And by the way, I did a copy paste originally. Most of you know I could drag her on over, and as long as I add the Alter Option key before I'm done, now I have a copy of that. So I do what I call a copy drag or a drag copy. I don't know which way I should say it. I don't know what the right term for that. Hey, if you can think of what's it, should it be copy drag or drag copy? I guess it's really drag copy. Throw that in the comments as to be which way it should be. But now this thing as it's playing.
Difference or deviation.
Jumpstart.
The artificial intelligence autopilot where it isn't. And arriving.
Okay, don't do it that often. Put it every 15 seconds, every 30 seconds. And I'm not saying I would do that. So if you don't want to buy a beep, go get a beep. I get it off my subscription service, but you can get free beeps. I've heard beeps all over. You can go ahead and get them. There are a bunch of royalty-free, copyright-free beeps that you can get, and you can put them in the background. If you don't want to do that, go ahead and record yourself saying whatever you want to say. Oh, love you as a customer. Say whatever you want, okay? I can't wait to do more voice work for you. Anything you want. Wait. When you love this, I'll give you the version without all this crap. You can put whatever you want in there, all right? You just make it fun. Actually, if you can think of something funny to say, do that. Say, I don't usually do this, but for you, you're special. Whatever you can think of that you could put in there, that's fine. Throw a little reverb on it, make it fun, make it interesting. You can make it sound like an old school telephone. You can do all that kind of stuff, all the things. And then when you're ready to go, then you're going to simply mix it down. And when you combine that down, I'll do a WAV file here. By the way, you can do both WAV and MP3 at once. I'm probably sending them in MP3. I'll go ahead and client file with Watermark, boom. And then what happens is you will see, you will get something that comes out here. Oh, I don't even know what I had active there. That's probably not even right. What did I have active? Let's see. All right. I end up with one file there. And because I had mine set up, and then I had the right one. No, I had a different one active. Anyway, right about here, let's see what happens. I'm going to play this file here. Boom. And let's see. It should have been.
Artificial Intelligence Autopilot, AIA, uses deviations to generate corrective commands, also known.
There's my beep. Okay. So I had this track active. Let me do that right. All right. Hey. By the way, if you think I'm perfect, then okay, I burst that bubble. All right, I make more mistakes than almost all of you combined, and because of that, I learned from it. I didn't have the right track active to get my timing right, so I should have chosen this track here, and now I'll export it again as the same thing. I'm just going to do it again, and then that way it'll export it. And 400 years later, I get the track, or 10 seconds. So there that is. We'll drag that in. Now I got the whole track there. And what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Oh, I had it muted. Duh. Because I was, see? Duh. See? It's all unmuted tracks for the mix down. All unmuted tracks that will come out in the mix down. Well, hey, if I mute them all, guess what you get? You get all muted tracks. You get nothing. All right? Some of you saw that, by the way. Some of you saw that while I was doing it, and were going to yell at me going, hey, bozo. Why don't you unmute some tracks? I just unmuted those two tracks. Now that came up. Cool. We'll take that, and look at that. Now we have a track, and now I'm going to mute those guys so we can hear this other one, and now they'll line up so that you'll see right when the green one comes in, it's combined together. Double click.
It obtains a difference or deviation.
Jumpstart.
The artificial intelligence autopilot.
And then we'll get our little beep here.
Commands. Also known as position where it isn't, and arriving at a position where it wasn't.
All right, so there's all that. So you can do it that way, and that's kind of what most people are going to do. Now, let me give you a couple other options. Let me first check. You can get a couple lines. Yes. Dale's got it right. Dale says, this is cool. Dale's got it right. He says, I rarely, if I use the watermark, instead I might give the client just a couple of lines from the beginning and end of the script. Absolutely. That's another thing that I do all the time. But here's how you do it. Okay, watch this. You can also just go ahead and fade out the end. All right, you can fade out the beginning. You fade out. You can fade in the beginning. You also could go to the middle here and double click And then if you select both of them, then you can actually use a crossfade. And then watch this. I drag these and now I have a crossfade. All of these will render this whole thing unusable in the real world and give them a taste of what it sounds like. But let me mute everything else. So now I have no watermarks in this version, meaning I'm not going to watermark anything. I'm just using fades. And obviously, if I'm at the very beginning,
the self-driving car knows where it is at all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't. By subtracting where it is,
so people can pretty much hear what's going on there, even though it sounds quiet with the fade. And you can adjust that how long. It doesn't need to be very long to make it totally unusable. But then when I get to a crossfade,
the position where it is now the position that it wasn't. And it follows that the position that it was is now the position that it isn't. In the event that the position that it is in is not the position that it wasn't, the system has acquired.
So all I did was I put in, and by the way, you can adjust this to, you can grab the bottom third of your audio here and put this crossfade any place in the audio and it would work. And you can see it visually as I do that you can move that around, slide it around someplace and put it where you want it. And you don't need many of those. By the way, if you ever have anything, if it ever has a phone number or contact thing at the end, all you have to do is fade out that and the whole thing is unusable, because what they really want, although I guess they could have somebody else go and call 800-12222 blah 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 blah, because sometimes that's a different voice. So that I've heard before. So, but you could fade out the phone number. You can fade out the very beginning and have it start a little later. You could have a long fade in. You just have all these other options. So you get a chance to do this stuff without having to do any of this watermark stuff, which is obnoxious. But by the way, fades in and fades out. I think they're less obtrusive, and they certainly, somebody can hear it if you do it right, but it's not the same. And you can put those in, crossfades in and out, and that works quite well as they all work. And then you don't have to do any of this. So you just have the single track, send them a mono track. You can get more, less with this if you really don't like them. Put something obscene, a crazy amount, a small amount, fade out at the beginning and end, trim off a couple words. Dale's saying, here, watch this. Boom, that's totally unusable. Now it stops before. All I did was drag it, and then I can drag it back. So you have that option. You could go to the very beginning and drag off the first two words, and then it's unusable. And you can have something in the middle if you want one time. The least amount you can have in there, the better off you are, okay? Or we could get new clients. That would work too, okay? So, hey, Steve. Hey, Dale. How you doing? Let me check down here on the Facebook, see the, and so I hope that gives you some ideas there. Let me check out my little notes. Oh, by the way, if I did leave all this in here where I have these tracks, so now, okay, this is just going to be hyper obnoxious, so I might want to take all these out because I certainly don't want to have fade in and outs and the watermarks. But if I have the watermarks there, most of the time, I might have a music track as well with that. I'm going to send them a stereo file. One of the things that I also can do is I still can export the stems and just have it do this main. And once again, main is the same as a mixdown, where it is all tracks that are unmuted. So I have green track unmuted here. I have yellow track unmuted here. And as long as I go out main, it is going to take all the unmuted tracks and it is going to send them out. Now, what I haven't tried over here is, I wonder if I try this speaker format mono, I think I'm going to try it. I haven't tried this. This is in version 6.5. And let's find this out. Let's see what happens here. Boom, 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 boom. We're going to get a track. And we have a single track here, main. And I'm going to throw this down here. And what do we get? Look at that. It's got a mono file, which happens to match the other one that I did here earlier. And that just came out of export stems. Okay. And I have that now. Let's play that. I'll mute. Everything else is muted except for this track here. We'll make it a fancy color. That's a fancy, ugly color. So I'm going to make it a purple-ish. All right. That makes a big difference in how it sounds, by the way, is what color it is. Yeah, right. All right. Let's see what happens right at this
difference or deviation. The artificial intelligence to generate corrective commands, also known as is in, is not. The obtained, it is not.
All right. Isn't that obnoxious? So now what I did was I combined obviously, the beeps or the whatever watermark I'm using. You can make those super subtle. If by the way, just if you make it hyper subtle, that's fine. But once again, most of the time, if I really need to do that, this is all I'm going to do. A fade at the beginning, a fade at the end. That's enough to just have them. And then if I really, really, really want to, I just might sneak this in, and I might sneak this in. They get a great sense of what's happening without having anything that's usable by them. And if you really wanted, you could go into the middle of it, throw in a crossfade. The keyboard shortcut for a crossfade is X, and you can just go any place you want, split it, and as long as they're both selected here, press your X key, and that gets you a fade. Now I have 2 of them in here. I could put in 6 of them if you want. As many as you want, put them in there, put them every 30 seconds, whatever, and that would work as well. So you have so many options. Studio One has so much depth, it's borderline crazy. You certainly don't need all those, and don't use all of them at once with somebody. It definitely, you just need one beep someplace to render the whole thing unusable, because they don't want that in their in their audio. And if you put your name in there subtly, that's fine. That works just as well as a beep, or get a good beep. All right. Anybody have any other suggestions on that? And so hopefully that, Dale, you took away your comment. I thought your comment was good. I don't know why you took that one away. That was good. Anyway, let me check Facebook comments here just in case. I don't see any comments there. And I do see them in the YouTube ones. So I really appreciate you guys hitting the YouTube ones. That's very helpful for that. And be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like this thing. Go ahead and turn on notifications. You will see I'm live a lot more than I used to be. And wait till you see what's coming up here. And of course, if you're watching this November of 2023, we got something really cool, Audition Secrets. This is going to be a live session November 19th. Check that out. And if you're using Studio One Jumpstart, that's pretty slick. And we have our mastering conversational reads. That's doing really, really well. Getting great feedback on that. So if you haven't checked those out, go to vojumpstart.com. Check that stuff all out. And of course, leave comments. Be sure to, if you're watch this on YouTube, check out the Facebook page, 4,000 people plus you. Okay, we need all of you there. And a huge community, and we continue to build it. It's amazing how many of you are bringing other people into the community, showing them Studio One is the place to be for doing voiceover stuff, narration, podcast, and of course, killing it in the music world as well. All right, I'm going to look for any final questions before does it allow me to refresh this? Let me just make sure that's right. This one is right. I'll refresh this one. All right, I don't see any questions. I'll see you in the groups. We'll see you live. We'll see you soon. You have a great weekend. See you on the wires. Bye.